Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. With me, 2 weeks in a row, my co-host Garrett Ballard. Garrett, how are we doing
Looking at
today?
a new attendance. I'm doing great. We're looking at a new attendance record here for me. uh, Good to be back as always. Excited for the episode today. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, two in a row. We're starting the streak for the Iron Man. It's going
Hey,
to be the
we're getting
longest
back to it.
lasting
We're getting back.
podcast.
We're getting back. That's right.
All right, so really interesting week. The Bucs made some coaching hires. Um, you know, won't get too deep into it. I gather special teams coach, people from New York weren't very happy with him. I've heard good things about the offensive line coach, but that's not the main course. What we really care about is the offensive coordinator who was hired this time last week. But since then, we've had the introductory press conference. So we're getting a little bit more knowledge about what he's all about. So, Garrett, let me ask you initial reactions from the press conference. What are your thoughts?
I mean, off rip, I immediately think of this is very very reminiscent of how I felt about the Dave Canales interview, like presser last year. And that was expected. I mean, they run a very similar system, and a lot of the things they were saying seem to line up. They want to have a good balanced attack, um, pass when they can, but also you need to have a good run game. Yada yada yada. Um, it felt, it felt good. It sounded good. There was nothing that he said that I was like, that scares me, or you know. It's a Sean McVay style offense. It's gonna have heavy run elements, but also really creative pass elements, and that's what we saw with Canales, and that's what I expect to see with Coen.
Yeah, I felt like we were spoiled with how open and honest and insightful Canales was coming from Byron
Yeah,
Leftwich. And I was a little bit afraid, not really knowing, Cohen's personality. We'd kind of go back to that, stoic, not give you anything, you know, bland kind of approach. But he was surprisingly insightful. Like,
mm,
the way he was talking football, talking formations. We're going to move the F here. We're going to do this. And,
yeah.
it was really, I don't want to say a breath of fresh air because we just had it with Dave Canales, but I don't want to take for granted how rare that is that coaches are that open and that honest and that transparent when they address media.
I mean, it's a relief. I mean, like you said, uh, there's always a chance that you go back to that Byron Leftwich that's not going to give you any. Heck, Todd Bowles doesn't really give you anything, even though he's the head coach. That's just how some head coaches are, somehow how some coaches are. Um, so to see that they seem to have gotten another one who's gonna be open and honest about what's going wrong or maybe what's going right and what they like and what they don't like, and like you said, how they're going to use certain pieces of the offense is always a welcome sight, and it provides some really really exciting insight into this team that we all like and love so much.
Yeah, and you know, it's nice to win the press conference, but obviously that's not the most important thing. But
Right.
I think it really is a testament to Todd Bowles, and it's an early indication that he got this hire right
Yeah.
because so much of coaching is teaching, and so much of teaching is communicating and relationship building. And early indication, Cohen is going to be pretty good at both. Reaching out. We already know he has connection with Baker. I saw the video on Twitter where they're hugging, shooting the breeze. Good to see you. This is my wife. Good to see you. So early indications, everything's looking positive.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, I mean, I don't know if did you see the clip of Baker talking to Steve Young?
No, I heard he let some things slip on a hot mic, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, there's a hot mic, and they're talking about the situation, and Steve Young, you can hear him say, "So you're staying?" And Baker goes, "Yeah, bring some pieces back, and then we're gonna run it back pretty much." Um, so I think that the first, it was kind of all up in the air because Baker returning, a big part of that was going to be contingencies hinging on the offensive coordinator position. And obviously Dave Canales was getting interviewed, but no one really expected him to be hired until he was, or until the couple days leading up to when he was. So the fact that the Bucs nailed the hire in Baker's eyes went a long way, I'm sure, with that. And then, the other big piece is we think he'll be all right, but still holding out for Mike Evans, of course. But I mean, time to not to ignore Mike Evans because he's just the greatest offensive Buccaneer that has ever played for this team. Chris Godwin. I mean, Liam Coen was like, yeah, I see him like Cooper Kupp. That's a heavy hitter, man. Like you don't say that lightly. Like that's a lofty goal to give somebody. I mean, he says, yeah, and they have similar skill sets. They do. They're not gonna. I mean, I think Chris Godwin tested a little bit faster, but these aren't two guys who are known to beat you deep downfield with their speed. They're more that middle of the field, make the catch and then get some yards after it, kind of receiver. And he said, yeah, we're gonna move Chris back inside and utilize him like Cooper Kupp, which is very exciting to hear.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that role. I don't see him so much as Cooper Kupp, but the guy I compared this guy to Chris Godwin when he was coming out of college, and he plays that same role that Cooper Kupp does, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. And I thought, okay, this is a Chris Godwin clone. He's going to dominate in the slot, and he's got great hands. He's got great toughness. This is how Chris Godwin wins. Chris Godwin was an All-Pro that year, and they're really cut from the same cloth. Tough, over the middle, good route runners, good hands. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see him moving back to that role. And I think it was so smart of the Bucs to include Baker's input in this. I don't think this hire was made specifically for Baker, but Greg DeCruz brings it up right here. Thanks for tuning in. Continuity wins in this league. So you've got a quarterback who, he's been through the ringer. He's had like 5 offensive coordinators in 3 years or something like that, or 1 year and something like that. It feels like how many in Carolina, and then the Rams and Cleveland, and now
it was all over.
So to give that guy like a little bit of like continuity and support, like, hey, we value the input of our quarterback. What do you want? What are you looking for? We want to bring you back. What is going to make you want to come back? What's going to vibe with you? And, you don't bend over backwards and give Baker, okay, this is your guy. We're bringing in your guy. But you want to bring someone who is going to mesh with Baker, someone who Baker is comfortable with, someone who's comfortable with Baker. It's kind of a two-way street. You want that input, but you also want a guy, if Baker does go, you can plug in a new quarterback and still have positive results. And I think Coen is that perfect sweet spot.
100%. I mean, the good thing about the system that Coen and Canales have run in the past is that it's very conducive to good quarterback play. This is not to the slight of Baker, right? But he was playing some not great football prior to this year. And then he comes into this system, and a big part of his comfort and the weapons he has around him. But I mean, it's probably the best football Baker Mayfield's ever played in his professional career in Tampa Bay. And a big part of that is the structure of the offense. And, like everyone was saying, if you're able to keep that continuity, you're going to be successful. You're going to be able to build off of things that you saw last year of what worked and figure out how to take them to the next level to beat opponents even more, or beat opponents that you didn't beat last year. And with ideally Baker, Mike Evans, the whole the big pieces returning, they'll be able to turn some heads again next year with Liam Coen.
So we both agree early returns on Liam Coen. He's won the press conference. We're feeling good. Was there anything specific he said in that presser that stood out to you? Like, this is what I wanted to hear. I think this is going to be a a big part of what we need to do moving forward? Because I know there was a couple of things that popped out to me right away.
Yeah, I was looking for it. I'm trying to find it. You go first while I'm looking.
Okay, so there were two things. The one that I'm most excited for, he used the phrase
This is
the
yeah.
illusion of complexity.
Mm,
And we got more of that with Dave Canales last year, but the way they're going to run just a basic set of plays, but they're going to give you 100 different looks at it. They're going to run a dive from, two tight end sets and four wide sets, and they're going to give you motions with it, and they're going to give you the same basic play in 12 different ways, and they're going to do that for like 50 different plays. So I
mm.
mean, you add that up, that's like 500 plays, and you
Yeah,
really only know 5 or 50, but you can run them in different formations, and it makes it look more complicated to the defense. You get another way to read the defense by putting guys in motion out of the backfield, motion them back into the backfield, motion receivers from one side to the other, and you kind of get an idea of what the defense is doing. And all that eye candy, we've been calling for that for so long, and Canales started to give that way more than Leftwich ever did. And it sounds like Liam Coen is going to just take that and run with it. And that is what stood out to me. There were a couple of things, but that was the big takeaway I took, that illusion of complexity.
yeah. No, I mean, getting defenses to overplay their hand is a big part of offensive play calling, right? Motion, you know, unmasks a lot, and that in itself, you're able to figure out if they're playing zone, man, and then go from there. I mean, there was a clip today about Tom Brady who was like, all right, pre-snap, you're able to pretty consistently and easily figure out if they're playing man or zone. And then if you've called a play to beat man, but it's zone, you switch, right? And like you said, that illusion of complexity is gonna ideally allow the Buccaneers offense and Baker Mayfield and Liam Coen to uh, make the defense make mistakes before the plays even started, and make that just that much easier on the offense to succeed. Um, the one that I was looking for and I eventually found, I wanted to make sure I got the wording right, was he said, I was taught in times of crisis, think players, not plays. Um, I think in the last couple of years, even sometimes last year, far too many times we have seen Mike Evans not get targeted, right? Or Chris Godwin not get targeted. Um, you need to get the ball to your playmakers. It's how you're going to win games. There are reason there are reasons they are viewed so highly by not just fans but coaches and media and other players, right? Um, Mike Evans is universally thought of as one of the best receivers in the NFL. There should be no reason he touches the ball less than five times in every game unless he's hurt, right? Um, so hearing Cohen come out and say, yeah, if we're really struggling, I'm looking to Mike Evans. I'm not looking for a specific play. I'm looking to Chris Godwin. I'm not looking for a specific play. Uh, I'm looking to create some explosive plays with our explosive players, and that is very, very encouraging.
Yeah, and it'll only be better this year as the Bucs look to continue to add playmakers. Greg D. Cruz, mentions Bucs aren't far away from competing for Super Bowls again. He mentions offensive line. I think that's their biggest area of need going into this draft, and that's another weapon they can add to their repertoire. A guy like Jackson Powers Johnson or Troy Fontenot, someone like that to improve this offensive line. And you add a Noah Fant in free agency, or you add a Lad McConkey in the draft, and your weapons are starting to pile up, and you can go to certain packages. I want to get Mike Evans this look. You can get it to him, but if they're taking away Mike Evans, you want to get Chris Godwin involved. Okay, I want to get him this look, or I want to get Ladd this look, or I want to get Otten this look, or Rashad White this look. There's going to be packages for all those guys, and really it's just a matter of attacking what the defense is bad at. He mentioned that. And there's going to be a balance of taking what they give them. If they're playing, a bunch of
Of
guys,
course.
you're going to go over the middle. You're going to get that short stuff. Rashad White, that's just basic, taking advantage of what's there. Just it doesn't have to be overcomplicated.
Yeah, I mean it's football at the end of the day, right? I mean it is a complicated thing at the highest level, but Um, there time and time again, you see quarterbacks and teams try and force things that aren't there. I mean, I just think back to Baltimore in the playoffs. They were looking like they were trying to do too much the entire game. Um, sometimes you can, but if it's not working, just take the stuff that they're giving you, right? Um, and that's going to be crucial always.
Yeah, that's what made Tom Brady so great. He could get his guy the ball when he wanted to, but when they did everything they could to take it away, you could dump it off to a Wes Welker or, one of their many pass catching running backs.
Yeah.
He was great at it. He knew when to take a shot. And he knew when to dump it off. It's an art form.
It is. It really is. By the way, just that comment already got me hyped for draft season, man.
Yes.
Man, come April, we are talking draft nonstop.
Yeah, Greg DeCruz mentioned pass rusher, and I finally found a pass rusher who I'm really excited about.
I think I saw you tweet about him the other day. Am I correct?
I think you did. He was in my first mock draft, and honestly, this is not a great edge class. I'm not super excited about the class overall. I mean, there's a couple guys at the top who the Bucs probably won't sniff, and after that, it gets thin real fast.
Yeah.
But I found a day 2 edge rusher who I really like.
We will cliffhanger for the listeners to come back in April.
Yeah, go to Bucs Report. Check out my latest mock draft. Good stuff.
There you go.
All right. Final thoughts on this Coen presser before we kind of move on to offensive grades as a whole.
Yeah, just a summary. Honestly, is I'm encouraged. It's like I said, I feel very similarly to this as I did to Canales a year ago, which is a good thing because I was looking forward to seeing how Canales worked out, and it worked out very well. I like a lot of what he said. I don't think there was anything I really disliked. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what they add and how those pieces might fit into this offense. It'll be exciting for sure.
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts on it is I don't remember who said this, but I thought it was a really good encapsulation of it. I wish I could give credit to whoever it was, but Coen comes off as a really great blend of old school football. I want to run the ball. I want to be tough. I want to be physical. Meets new school football analytics, knowing when to go for it. I know the year he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams in 2022, they led the league in fourth down conversions. So, he wasn't calling all of those plays, but he was designing and kind of setting up a lot of the offense, a lot of that support work for Sean McVay, a lot of that analytics stuff that when to go for 2 or when to go for fourth down and when not to. So I feel like this is a really, really good hire for what the Bucs want to do and what they want to be moving forward.
Another quick note. One thing that I think I am most excited for potentially coming over from that Rams offense is their red zone efficiency. Top 10 teams in terms of touchdown scoring within the red zone, the Rams were. So if Coen can bring that to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which has been sorely lacking for quite some time now, be looking good.
Yeah, and it's not like they have a ton of capital in their offensive line or their running backs. Kyron Williams was like a 6th round pick. Cam Akers was, kind of just a guy. Their offensive line has kind of been developed from a bunch of hodgepodge. So all very positive indications of what this Bucs offense could be.
Yes, sir.
All right. So speaking of offense, the season's over. We've had a chance to process. We've had a chance to reflect. Let's do some offensive review. We'll hand out some grades. Where the Bucs landed overall for the year. And let's start with quarterback because that's the topic on everybody's mind. Baker Mayfield. Will he be back? Won't he be back? We both expect he will. What are we thinking on Baker Mayfield right now? Great year? Good year? Kind of what we expected? Exceeded expectations? What do you expect from him?
I mean, that was 100% an exceeded expectations year. I was definitely not expecting to see that from Baker Mayfield. I think if I was giving him a grade, I think I would still say like a B+ because there were some games I'm picturing that Lions game in my head where he was winnable game, but it was just he wasn't dialed in. He overthrew not Rashad White, Trey Palmer like 3 or 4 times. Good evening, Christopher. Uh, he wasn't perfect. He was not perfect. Obviously, no quarterback ever is. Um, there were times when he won us games, or he like that Green Bay game was, man, that was fantastic. And then there were times where you're like, man, what the heck was that? And that's okay. I mean, growing pains of being with a new team, not everything's going to go right anyways, ever. Um, but in terms of what we got and what we were expecting, couldn't have been better for the Bucs this season, honestly.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you with a B plus. And actually, I go back to last offseason when I kind of predicted what Baker Mayfield would be this year.
Yeah.
And, anyone who's followed this podcast knows I'm not a huge Baker Mayfield guy coming in this year. But with the offense that not Sean McVay, but that Dave Canales is bringing in, I did expect him to set career highs. I did expect him to play the full season. Some people thought Trask would take over mid-year. I was never one of those people. I know. And we feel similarly about Baker Mayfield overall.
Yeah.
But I thought
And now we're both on the same page still. So
But it's just a matter of give him the right structure around him in a quality, well-designed offense with the best playmakers he's ever had. I thought he would really have a career year. And that's exactly what he did. And I think his overall numbers landed pretty close to where I estimated they would. But you're right. There were some times where it was underwhelming. And, I really thought, Baker, you're killing us this game. And there were some times where, he kind of took things over a little bit, especially with his feet, the way he could escape pressure. And I thought, wow, Baker, you're better than I thought you'd be. Way to go.
yeah, that early losing streak was rough. That was times were looking dire. And then it turned around. He won me over for sure. I mean, the dude's a gamer. Like he's so fun to watch, and it's so clear that the team just uh, gets so much energy when he's playing well and when he's breaking off those runs and taking a hit but still getting the first down. It's energizing to watch. It's a lot of fun.
I think that's the part that surprised me most because going back to his college days, we knew Baker had confidence. We knew Baker had swag. I did not know Baker had leadership. Like he has
Yeah.
galvanized this team in a way I'd never expected.
Yeah, it was always more of like a, excuse my language, but he's like just a shit talker, right? I mean, you'd think, okay, this guy's out here running his mouth, but I mean, he was running his mouth this year, but he backed it up. Clearly was a leader on that team. I mean, it's very, very obvious the team plays for him.
Yeah, so if there's anything that really exceeded my expectations, it would be that aspect. That thing, those are those intangibles, those things you can't measure as a, couch GM. You can't be in those room and know those men, and he far exceeded my expectations as a, someone on the outside looking in.
Yep. And I mean, even when they would lose, like being in the post game press conference room, like in that media room, and then the locker room after, there was never a moment where anyone sounded or even gave an inkling of, oh man, yeah, Baker's kind of losing the locker room, right? Like he's, even during that losing streak, everyone's like, man, Baker, that guy's the best. Like we're gonna win games because of that guy. Like don't worry, he's gonna get it right, and we're gonna be all right. It was always that energy.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that buddy kind of thing. It wasn't just Baker and the boys.
Oh
He
yeah.
he had that quote at the Senior Bowl where Tristan Wirfs and they had that stepbrothers best friends moment. He held guys accountable. Like I remember he had that post game presser. I don't remember which loss it was after, but he basically said, "Look, we're gonna keep losing until everyone wants it as bad as I do."
Yep.
And that is leadership. That is calling guys out without calling them out in the media. That's saying everyone needs to raise their level. And
Yep.
it's okay to make mistakes because we all know Baker has made mistakes, but it's never okay to not, give the effort that Baker gave because he is a tough and gritty competitor. He will give it his all, flaws, included, but he will never be accused of not trying for this team.
to bounce off that real quick before we move on to other offensive topics, it's not like it's not like he's like, oh yeah, our team's got to step it up. Before that, he would say, I was crap today. He always let it off with I sucked.
No.
If the team lost, he was like, I was sucked today. I got to be better. And then he would say, we got to be better.
Yeah.
You know,
Accountability.
always with him first.
Yeah. So I think that, as much as anything, is the reason he's going to be a high priority to bring back.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So let's shift to the guys who made Baker look good. And, that could be a couple of guys, but let's go to the wide receivers.
Sure.
Let's start at the top and work our way down. Mike Evans.
A friggin' plus, man. That guy is so good. I mean, there's really nothing much to say. I mean, he's just going to get you 10 plus touchdowns every year, 1,000 plus yards every year, on like less than 100 catches. The guy is just otherworldly good.
Yeah, led the league in touchdowns. First time in his career he's done that.
Yep.
He had almost 1,300 yards.
I think so, yeah.
So it's just another year for Mike Evans. 14
it really
touchdowns,
is. Yeah,
1,200. It's it's common for
him.
him.
I mean, it's insane that this is like, leading the league in touchdowns. Yeah, easy. Kidding me? It's Mike Evans. It's just every year. It really is. Like it is. It's every year, and
it didn't even set his own career high.
I know. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
So fully agree. Mike Evans, I think he made Baker look good sometimes when Baker was, average. He just took over, and I think another year between those two building chemistry, that I think that's only going to improve next year, especially on those deep shots. I think Baker, he struggled with the deep ball at times, kind of gauging the speed and the timing with his guys. But Mike Evans, what can you say? Greatest offensive player in team history, future Hall of Famer.
Yep.
You look at the guys who are on the docket to get into Hall of Fame just the other day. Andre Johnson
got in.
Mm-hmm. Evans is ahead of him on all the lists.
Yep, except yards, but
that's true. But that will probably change next year.
Yeah, Evans hasn't stopped. Well, he needs like 3,000, so I don't think it'll happen next year.
The catch Johnson. I forgot how good.
Like
Johnson
20,
is. I always forget how good.
20, like between 25 and 3,000. But
2 years.
Like he's not done playing, and he gets 1,000 yards every year, so not long.
No, he's right there with the Torrey Holtz, the Steve Smith, the Andre Johnsons. He's already in that Hall of Fame caliber tier, and he's still cooking.
Yeah, he's like right now. It's like those guys; they're all on the cusp. Evans is there, and he's not done. That's the big part.
Yep. Once he locks up 100 touchdowns and 14,000 yards.
I will say, and the other thing is he does have the ring to go with it. So
he does.
That helps.
All right, another guy who has the ring probably won't be in that Hall of Fame discussion, but still, a Hall of Famer in our hearts. Christopher Godwin.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a really quiet but really good season for Chris Godwin, which I mean seems standard for him. I mean, he's Mr. Reliable, honestly. If you look at a guy who's getting the ball in those crucial situations, it's Chris Godwin. I mean, and he always converts it, right? 3rd and short, need a gritty catch over the middle of the field or on the sideline, go to Chris Godwin. You need 2 yards for a first down, you just end around to Chris Godwin, he'll get it. I think what was his fine? It was over 1,000, right? It was like 1,000 and change. Am I correct?
1,024 yards.
Yeah, 1,000 and change. So just eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark on, again, what I classify as a quiet season. There were stretches of time where he wouldn't get the ball, and everyone's like, "Hey, man, where's Chris Godwin? We got to get him the ball." And then there'd be stretches of times when Mike Evans wouldn't get the ball, but Godwin's getting the ball, right? So, I mean, it's a great 1-2 punch with those two. Again, I would give it like an A. The touchdowns weren't there for him this year.
They weren't.
But I'm touchdowns are nice, but the situational catches and the high effort and that motor that he plays with, you can't really you can't replace it.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on this year for Chris Godwin. I'll give it a B, but part of that is no fault of his own.
Yeah.
He was moving more to the outside, so he was leaving the slot where he'd been very productive. So he was kind of switching back to a different role. And there were times when, one, he wasn't featured enough in the game plan. That's a Dave Canales issue, not a Chris Godwin issue.
Yeah,
And there
I
were
was taking that out of mine
Mhm.
just for clarification.
Sure, and it's hard to separate them,
Yeah, it's
because
tough.
it all comes down to production.
Yeah, it does.
And I think he could have had more production, like we saw in the Saints game. Mike Evans went out. Chris Godwin stepped up and had a big game.
Yeah, he
I
did.
think Baker was too dependent on Mike at times because of how great Mike is. So I think that kind of hurt Chris, just not having that comfort level with Baker yet, developing that chemistry. So I think it hurt him in terms of overall production, especially with the touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, that is a very
Yeah,
small number.
that's not great.
Yeah, Kate Otten, I think, had more.
Yep.
And Ko Kieft almost had as many touchdowns. I mean, that's just for a guy who's we've seen him play all pro caliber football. That's not what you expect.
I'm gonna chalk part of that up to the red zone issues, because like I said, Chris Godwin's not the guy that's gonna beat you downfield. Really, he's the intermediate guy, and if you're not within the 20-yard line, it's gonna be hard to find your intermediate guy for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, again, not all his fault.
No.
Chris, he's Mr. Consistent.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's quickly go through the rest of the wide receivers because after those top 2, it is top heavy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Garrett, where are you at with Trey Palmer?
Really promising rookie year. Liked a lot what I saw. I'm gonna give it like a C+, B-. The production wasn't great. There were some mistakes that you could see every now and then, but the speed's evident. His explosive play potential is off the charts. Really like what you see, but I don't know how high the ceiling is. That's my only concern.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'd give him probably like a C+, B-.
Yeah.
He was a 6th-round pick, so you didn't expect him to come in and light
Exactly. Yeah.
But he did emerge as a really solid 3rd option by the end of the year. I think early on it was Tompkins and Dave Moore had a run, and Raheem Jarrett got some play. They were all kind of jockeying for that job, and no one really emerged until the second half of the year. Yeah. And that speed from Trey Palmer, that is a game changer. Like we saw in that Lions game, there were 2 shots to him where he was very open and Baker just missed him, but those could have easily been explosive plays that changed the face of that game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he is only going to be better next year, and I don't know that he'll ever be like a Deshaun Jackson or one of those star caliber players who just burns by everyone, but
just
he's always
at like a John Brown.
Yeah, he had a really nice little career in Arizona.
Yep.
And then Trey Palmer's a foot taller than John Brown because he was super short.
Yeah,
he can go up and get some of those balls. He had more touchdowns than Chris Godwin this year.
Yeah, he did. I like I said, I like what I saw from him. Obviously, like if you can get that level of production, maybe a little bit more every year, that's great. Like a wide receiver 3, that's good. He also won me some cash whenever he would wake up pissed off. I'd bet anytime touchdown, and it worked all but the last the Lions game, the playoff game. So
he just wasn't angry enough.
Nah, yeah. He woke up a little bit too late, unfortunately. But
dude's like the Incredible Hulk. We just have to have someone like standing outside his apartment, like with a air horn, just trying to bother him constantly.
Yeah, the opponent's like fight song or whatever.
Make this man angry quick. And then the rest of the wide receiver room, David Moore.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. Nothing crazy. Like you said, David Moore had a little bit of a streak, like a 2-week spree. Raheem Jarrett, I mean, I'll give it like a C-. It wasn't very encouraging.
Yeah, I'll give them all D plus because I think
Yeah.
after those top three, they're all replaceable.
Yeah.
No one has solidified themselves. Tompkins a little bit as a return man, but more Jarrett. There's nothing that says we can't go out and get a guy on day two and let's strengthen this wide receiver room more. There's nothing attaching me to these
100%.
guys.
100%.
So, not mad at the production they had because they were kind of nothing coming in, but they
Right.
continue to be nothing for me.
They're replaceable level. That's all it is.
Yeah, which is fine, for a fifth wide receiver, a
Yeah.
practice squad guy who is elevated. You can't ask for too much more, but
And we knew that the room was thin coming in. We knew it was pretty top heavy. We knew that the production would solely be on the top three and mostly the top two. So I think we both expect wide receiver to be an addition this year, this offseason.
I would very much hope so. There are a couple of guys day two who I really like.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep. For sure.
Let's go tight end.
Okay.
Cade Otton, he's the big one. Where you
Yep.
at?
I think he's fine. Like, I think that's pretty much it. Fine. I'll give him like a C. He's what you see is what he's gonna be for his career. I think solid receiver. Okay blocking, has some faults, but can do his job, especially in the open field. But it's just kind of middle of the line. It's him, he's I think like probably an average tight end too, but someone that you probably don't want taking the majority of your tight end snaps.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd give him a C. I think we were both hoping he would emerge a little bit more this year as a more dynamic weapon than what he has been.
Yep.
Positive note, he did tie Kyle Pitts in career touchdown receptions despite having played one less year. So, at least he's not Kyle Pitts.
Oh, man.
But, no, I feel the same way. I think Otton is a really high-quality tight end, too. He is a okay tight end one, someone you would look to replace, but you can live with for, a functional offense. He's not going to kill you. I would love to see the Bucs add a guy, whether it's free agency or the draft.
Yep.
Noah Fant is a name I like. I think he's a free agent this year. Pretty athletic.
I was going to say I was a fan of that one. He's a big time athlete.
Mm-hmm. Couple of guys in college, obviously Brock Bowers, but the Bucs won't sniff him. But there are some nice little tight ends who could emerge as someone better than Cade Otton. Not a super strong tight end class overall, but there are some nice names to watch because if you can get two Cade Ottons, that's good. If you can get all-star level tight end and Cade Otton, that's great. And I think they can get a second Cade Otton type in this draft. So I could live with that.
Yeah, it's all right.
I think he had 450 yards. It's not bad for a.
It's all right. Yeah, like
role
like
player.
you said, exactly. He's a role player. He did his job. But it's what you're gonna get every year, right? It's just kind of mid.
Yeah. It's not gonna cause any wake. It's not gonna make me too excited.
No.
Like Cade Otton, but he is what he is.
Yeah.
And then I won't even bother with the rest of the tight end room. Kokieft, nice job blocking. A+ there, but overall it's a C because he can't bring anything else but that.
Does nothing in the receiving game.
Despite getting the first 2 targets of the year, we thought he was going to be a featured piece.
That was crazy, by the way. I was like, what is going on?
His last 2 targets of the year, pretty much.
Oh, my God. That was wild.
And then the other name I will bring up, Payne Durham. Drafted him last year. Maybe a future. I think he played better than I expected him to, but I had a very low expectation of him.
Yeah. I didn't expect much, didn't get much, like the red zone threat, but didn't see enough to make me think he'll be a long-term playmaker or impact.
And he's a long-term development guy, a guy who can be a tight end 3, the frame to be a blocker, but was not a good blocker coming out of college.
Yeah.
Good hands, but not a good separator. It's hard to make a living like that. So
correct.
He's more long-term developmental. think we saw a nice flash or two out of him, but again, he's not who you want as your tight end too. The Bucs need to address that.
Yep.
All right. Let's go next to running back. The running back, y'all. Rashad White.
Yeah, because there's really only one worth. That's Chase Edmonds was solid when he needed to be.
He was.
But Rashad White, I'm gonna give Rashad White. I'll give Rashad White a B+. I will give the run game a F, dude. That shit is trash. Oh my god. You got a finesse back running duo and ISO between the tackles, and that's not going to fly. You saw what he did when he got in space. Get him there, right? I mean, there were glimpses of it every now and then they were just shove him back behind Robert Hainsey, and that didn't really work. And you can blame the offensive line, the interior, and it wasn't great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if a good interior offensive line, like, you'd get more yards, but I don't think you would get the same production you'd get from getting him in space, right? So I just think it wasn't like a conducive situation for success for Rashad White. But when he was put in favorable situations, oh my gosh, he was incredible. I mean, he had like the second most scrimmage yards from any running back in the league or something like that, or was like top 5.
I think he only trailed Christian McCaffrey. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is pretty close.
Yeah, like, that's crazy. Like, if you don't run him behind the tackles 50 times a game, I mean, you're talking about him as one of the best running backs in the league, but he averages 2.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, it was frustrating the way they wanted to pound the rock sometimes. I'm all about establishing the run, but I'm more doing it in an effective, smart way than just banging it between the tackles.
Yes.
I'm going to give Rashad White an A, though, because he exceeded what I thought he could do. One, I didn't think he had like the toughness and the durability and just the grit to his game to be that bell cow between the tackles back, because he's not built for that. He's a lean build. I think he looks even more lean wearing number 1. That's a terrible number for a running back to wear. But the fact that he held up and really did all you could have asked from him in that role, that was impressive to me. That was a tough, gritty season for him. Grinded it out. And then when you got him in space, he was even better than I expected him to be. His game looks so simple. A lot of times it's just one cut, and you think a linebacker could adjust to it, but it happens so suddenly. The linebacker goes flying by,
and he's got like that smooth. He's got that smooth speed, right? Like, he's not like a Tyreek Hill where he's just boom gone. Like, he just accelerates and is gaining speed and maintaining it the entire way he's weaving through the secondary. It's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, he's gone from, okay, this can be a functional RB1. He can be successful in the right role, to potentially, okay, we put a few more pieces around him. This could be maybe like a Matt Forte kind of guy. Great pass catcher, better than I expected, tougher runner than I expected. We do this for 7-8 more years. This is going to be a really nice career.
Yeah, and that said, he needs a compliment, right? We talked about it a little bit last week. Got some guys in the draft that we would look at in terms of and who we probably expect the Bucs to look at to kind of complement that finesse style that Rashad White has and be that hammer, right? Rashad White, like you said, is still tough, but he's not going to get the majority of his yards from putting his shoulder down and running through a linebacker, right? It's going to be mainly, like you said, making one cut and just getting an extra 7 yards. But big fan of Rashad White. Had a great year.
Yeah, just because he proved he was capable of doing it doesn't mean I want him doing it all the time. That is not the best way to utilize him.
Correct.
But props to him for being able to do it. Didn't think he could.
Get someone whose best utilization is that, though. That's all we're saying.
Yes. Get me a Gus Bus.
Ray Davis.
Get me Mike Allstott. Give me a guy who's 5'7" and 240 pounds. I just want a glorified fullback.
That would be electric. Oh my god. That would be some good stuff. Who is that fullback they drafted in like the 7th round in
Oh, from
like
Northwestern.
2015.
That was what was his name?
Oh man.
I thought he could be a nice little role
What
player.
was it? Was it like it was an Italian name or something?
Oh, I'm gonna
I
get it.
gotta look it up.
I'm gonna try and remember it before you get it.
Okay.
It was Valenti, something like that. It was something with a V, I think.
I think it was.
Um,
Oh man, I can't. Where is it? Oh no.
I think it's some Italian kind of sounding
It
name.
definitely was Italian.
Yeah, but he was an athlete. Dude could fly for his size. He was surprisingly athletic. No, not Vincenzo. That's a basketball player.
It might have been Valenti. Was it the Jameis year in the draft?
No, I think it was after that.
Oh God, was it the dreaded 2016 draft?
It probably was.
Whoa, that was a stinker.
Gosh, I can't.
This was not Jason Light's finest work.
No.
Dan Vitale.
Vitale, that's what it was.
Dan
It was something with a
Vitale.
V.
Yeah, that was him. All right.
Honestly, bring him back. Just line him up as
I don't know
fullback.
about that.
Just bang it up the middle. 260 pounds of ball carrier coming right at
I'll
you.
take a fullback. No, I'll take a Ray Davis. I don't want a fullback. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Ray Davis in day 3. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Not day 2. Do not draft a 25-year-old rookie in day 2.
No, thank you.
Rest of the running backs. Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds was fine as like a spell. Like that's all. He was hurt for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, showed some good plays towards the end of the season here and there. Sean Tucker was not as good as I expected or hoped. He was pretty disappointing. Keyshawn Vaughn got cut mid-season. Should have done that 2 years ago.
Should have done that on draft night.
That was a bad pick. Always was. I mean, I'll just give the rest of the running back room like a D plus. I mean, nothing really that made me like, yeah, we have a good room.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds, he was solid. I never felt like he was a liability.
Yeah, no, it was fine.
Same mold as Rashad White. He can catch it some. He can run it some. Don't want him banging through the tackles, but he ran fairly tough when he could. Yeah, it's just not his game. Tucker was my big disappointment. I had a lot of expectation of Tucker coming out. I thought really highly of him in Syracuse. I don't know what to make of it. As part of his heart issue, something that affected him physically.
I just think he's not that good.
It might be.
He
wasn't a good pass blocker. We always had concerns of him in the pass game.
And he got ample opportunity. It's not like he didn't get the chance. Like he had plenty of chances to show something, and he just didn't.
I don't think he got a lot of game reps though. I think he only had like
he did early the first couple weeks of the season. He was in there quite a bit.
I don't think he got a lot of touches though. 15 carries on the year, so no, he averaged 1.5 yards. Not great. So he didn't get a lot of carries, but he didn't do anything with the ones he had.
Yeah,
which is a shame because he's got vision and speed, and there's a lot I still like about Sean Tucker. He just hasn't worked out.
It might not be NFL vision. The speed's good.
Not be.
But
yeah,
sometimes those college lanes are definitely easier to spot.
Yep, they close a lot faster now.
Oh yeah,
especially with this offensive line. Let's go there next.
Yeah, Wirfs A plus expected. Gedeke, I'll give like an A minus. He was very solid. Looked way better at tackle this year than guard. Mock, I'll give like a B minus because I saw some flashes that I really liked. Who's the other guard this year?
Aaron Stinney.
Yeah, like a D. And then Robert Hainsey, I'm gonna give like a D plus. Robert Hainsey did not have a good year.
Yeah. The three building blocks. Wirfs, obviously A plus.
Yep.
Great. Switching from right to left, didn't miss a beat. The only time he struggled was when he was dealing with a quad injury, and he played through it, and he was still very good.
Yep.
Luke Gadecki, I was really skeptical of the way they handled it. Moving him to guard, moving him to tackle. Will they? Won't they? Turns out they had a much better plan in place in the offseason. They always planned, from day one of the offseason to move him to tackle. And he'd been training there, and he'd been training like a beast. And he had been meeting with Joe Staley, fellow Central Michigan graduate. They've been linking up. And, they kind of dealt with some of the same issues. Shorter-armed guys, super athletic. And he learned a lot in the offseason. So I'll give Gadecki an A.
Yeah,
Just
he had
from
a
his
great
growth.
year.
Yeah. Very, very good right tackle. One of the better ones, not Pro Bowl level, but you look around the league, there's not a lot of better right tackles out there.
No. I'm very, very happy with what we have in the bookends for sure.
Cody Mock, I'll give him a B+. He had his fair share of struggles, but he was honestly way above where I expected him to be.
You can see the path very clearly. It's there.
Yeah. You got to think, this time last year, he was a left tackle, not a right guard.
At North Dakota State.
At North Dakota State. So the jump from North Dakota State to the MAC is huge. The jump from the MAC to the SEC is huge. The jump from the SEC to the NFL is huge. He just jumped all those steps and right from one to the NFL, right from North Dakota State. It's insane, the level of competition jump, switching positions, learning new techniques, and he was
being
still
an instant starter.
Yeah, he didn't miss a snap all year, and he was not terrible. He struggled. He had rookie growing pains, which we expected him to. But he certainly wasn't the worst interior offensive lineman on this team.
No. Oh, he was the best interior offensive lineman, actually.
Not even close. Far and away the best. So another year, I think he's going to put on some weight. He's going to keep his athletic ability, continue to refine that technique. I'm really, really optimistic about Cody Mock right now.
Me too.
And then the other two, Stinney. He was a backup on this team for a reason. Yeah. He was never intended to be a starter. Same with Robert Hainsey. You knew drafting him in the third round, they projected him to be a starter one day, but he's just not. He's just not good enough.
And I think, unfortunately, their timeline got pushed up a bit to no fault of anyone's, but it happened. And you got to realize that it's not going to work, and you got to move on.
But even with that, he had a redshirt year behind Jensen where he just transitioned, because he was a tackle in college too.
You're right.
And he had to learn the technique, the position. He had that time to develop. And then last year he struggled. And then this year he struggled worse than a guy who was just coming in and making that transition for the first time.
Yep.
So it's just, you can keep him as a backup next year. That's fine. Next year's his last year. They'll let that contract run out. But you got to upgrade there in the offseason. Same with Stinney. Those cannot be starters on your team next year.
100%. And Matt Filer's not going to cut it.
No. That's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Just upgrade. It's all
easy enough to do.
Yep.
This is an offensive line plenty draft.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing is that they have two pieces on the outside and a piece on the inside, right? So say you're like, all right, we're gonna maybe we don't like any of the right or the left guards. Stinney can stay serviceable, or maybe they get just a temporary one in free agency. If you just get a center, you can make do, right? You don't need a perfect 5-for-5 offensive line to have a good offensive line, right? Just needs to be a cohesive unit that can work with each other and do their job enough, right? And if you already have three pieces, you have two pieces who are doing their job well above average, one piece who did their job very well this year and is expected to improve next year. If you can get another one, you're okay. So need to upgrade one by a wide margin, and then at least get a serviceable one at the other spot.
I know it's way early for free agent preview, but can I float a nice little name out there who I think would be a nice fit on that offensive line?
Like a pool noodle.
Damon Lewis from Seattle.
From LSU, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been a really nice player there. Very solid. coming from the same system the Canales ran, I think he'd be a really nice upgrade to what they have, and he would not be super expensive.
Yeah, that's a good floater there. That's like a dark rum on a pina colada floater. It's pretty good.
Something everyone can enjoy.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, that'll wrap up our position rankings.
Yeah.
Overall, it was a step in the
Overall,
right direction.
overall offensive ranking, I'm going to give it a B.
Yeah.
Good with a lot of room for improvement.
Now I'll join you with the B. I think the transition, because I don't think we talk about that enough, a huge transition from the Arians Leftwich system to
Oh
the
wow. Yeah.
Sean McVay system. A completely different style of offense.
Yep.
There was always going to be growing pains. It was never going to be perfect, but I think a lot of things went very positive for the Bucs, with uncertainty at quarterback, uncertainty on the offensive line, uncertainty with a first-time play caller, who we don't have to even grade Canales because he's gone. But I think a lot of things turned out better than we expected.
Right.
Acknowledging that it was not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, looking at all the things that we have said, yeah, they had to change this, adapt to this, move positions. This was everyone's first year doing that, right? So I mean, get a year of that under your belt. And of course, there's a new play caller, but similar line of thinking there. You'll be able to. There's a lot to build off of this year, and it was a lot of promise.
All right. Let me get you, before we wrap this up,
Yeah.
2 quick hitters for you.
Okay.
Non-Bucks offense related.
All right.
Number 1, 49ers, 2.5-point favorites in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Where are you going?
I think the Chiefs win outright. I I can't get over the Chiefs defense just completely shutting down Lamar. And I don't deny that part of that might have been the play calling from the Baltimore side. But I think Spagnuolo was a tremendous defensive play caller. And I, it's crazy saying that I don't think Patrick Mahomes will be the huge difference maker in this game. And that's just because of his receivers. But I think the Kansas City defense is going to shut down the San Francisco offense. I could eat my words here because the Shanahan offense is unbelievably creative and innovative and successful in everything they do. And Brock Purdy has run it well this year, no denying that. But I really like Spagnuolo and what they got going on. That secondary is no joke, man.
I'm going to go the other way with this one. I'm taking Niners to cover. I'm still not 100% convinced the Chiefs are really good.
That's fair. I'm totally okay with that. I think it's going to be a close game. I said shutdown. I shouldn't have said shutdown. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think they prevent them from beating the Chiefs. But that's totally fair because their receivers definitely aren't.
Yeah, the receivers stink. Their tackles stink.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a great run defense on paper. I do like their secondary. I do like their coordinator.
I like their linebackers.
Yeah, Bolton. I really liked him coming out of Missouri a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Bolton. Who else do they have? They have Chenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Willie Gay.
Drew Tranquil.
Yeah, I love their linebackers. Yeah, you're right. The run defense isn't great. George Karlaftis has had a great year. One of my favorites coming out of that draft.
He was a good one.
Yeah.
I think we talked about him. That was the year Logan Hall came out.
It was, Aiden Hutchinson, all them.
I think we both would have preferred
Karlaftis. Shizzer. Tooney. Casey Perry. Put that up on the screen here.
Oh no, that's devastating for the Chiefs.
Oh man, my prediction's in the gutter. It's all right.
You got 3 good players on the Chiefs offense, and one of them's out.
Yeah, that's
4.
That's tough. Hey, the one that matters though, Patrick Mahomes. That's the one. And if there's one thing that I know is that the Chiefs are going to know how to prepare. I will say also though, Christian McCaffrey, man, that guy is disgusting. But it should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. Every day I like go, maybe it's the 49ers. The Chiefs. I don't really know. It's hard, but right now I'm saying the Chiefs.
Shout out to Casey Perry, by the way, co-host of the Around the Book podcast. Catch us on Wednesday nights, 9:30. Shameless plug.
There we go.
All right, one last quick hitter before we wrap it up. Last night, NFL announced their Hall of Fame class.
Yeah.
It was Devin Hester. It was let me forget
It was a disgrace. That's what it was. How are you
it.
not putting
Okay, so
Antonio
he did
Gates
get
in
it
there?
right.
Oh my God! How are you not putting Antonio Gates in the Hall of Fame? Oh man.
So who would you take out for Gates, and are they right other than that?
Oh man. Hold on. Oh shoot. I
Because
can't
I got the list
read
right
it.
here. It was
Yeah.
Julius Peppers,
Yep.
Devin Hester,
Okay.
Dwight Freeney,
Okay.
Andre Johnson,
Okay.
Patrick Willis,
Okay.
Steve McMichael, Randy Gray.
Okay. I think the list is fine in itself, but Devin Hester, Andre Johnson over Antonio Gates is some nasty work, man. I get Devin Hester was like the greatest punt returner of all time. I get it. You can't put him in over Antonio Gates, right? And I get that, and I might kind of ignore the Andre Johnson one because that helps Mike Evans in the future. But right now, dude, Antonio Gates was like dominant and beat out Tony Gonzalez in his prime for all pro votes. He has more touchdowns than Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. Like he is a top 3 tight end of all time. Like it's, oh my goodness, top 4. I should say top 4 because they got, they have the 4 at the top there. But like it's, oh my God, I don't understand how he does not make the Hall of Fame on his first. What more did he need to do? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I circled him when they announced this list last year. Like, okay, that guy's getting in.
Yeah, everyone I don't know if a single person that didn't.
Yeah, I think that was the one qualm everybody had.
I also think it's insane. Sorry, not Hall of Fame. I think it's insane that you can finish with the most first place votes in something and not win.
What was that?
Damar
Hamlin,
Hamlin,
right?
Joe Flacco. Yeah. Hamlin had like 5 more first place votes and lost. How does that make sense?
R.I.P. to the Baker Mayfield Comeback Player of the Year truthers out there.
In our hearts, forever and always. But
I wouldn't have voted for him, to be fair.
Look, man, all I'm saying is that Joe Flacco came back from being old. Damar Hamlin was resurrected. But that's it. I'm going to end it there. My end of podcast rant on a lot of topics from the NFL honors. Thank you all for tuning in. It's always fun talking football with whoever wants to listen. I don't even care if you're a Bucs fan and you just want to come and learn about another team. More than happy to talk about the Bucs with you. It was a great time. Happy to be back. We'll be back. What are we doing next week? We're doing the defensive grades, correct?
Yep, we're going to grade the defense. Maybe mention the Super Bowl. It's kind of a big game happening this weekend.
Yeah, that would be a timely topic. What's going on, Sean? You are. I don't know if you're just tuning in. You are catching us at the end of the episode. Come back next week though for the defensive grades.
He will, because Sean's a real one.
There we go. But other than that, we appreciate it. Everyone have a good night. Have a good weekend. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.